In this week's Bizline, EVFTA creates momentum for EU-Vietnam trade and investment. And later on, Vietnamese startups attract foreign investors amid pandemic. Hello there, you're tuning into Bizline, our weekly economic journal on VTV International. I'm Hoàng Hằng, and as usual, we now take a look at news making headlines in Vietnam's economic scene this week.
The EU-Vietnam Free Trade Agreement, or EVFTA, plays an important role in creating momentum for trade and investment between Vietnam and the European Union in the new context. This was highlighted at the Vietnam-EU Trade Forum held in Hanoi on Wednesday. In particular, while the fourth wave of the COVID-19 pandemic has greatly affected key export regions in the south, in the past 9 months, two-way trade between Vietnam and the EU still recorded positive growth, with a turnover of $41.3 billion, up 13.4% over the same period last year. The number of investments slowed down but remained positive, with more than 2,200 projects, an increase of 164 projects over the same period, with registered investment capital of over $22.2 billion. According to investors and experts, the implementation of the agreement is not only about simplifying customs clearance procedures, but also modernizing the administration process in ministries, sectors and localities, as well as transparent law implementation and the predictability of issued policies.
Also on 27th of October, the government issued Decree number 92 detailing the implementation of Resolution number 406 of the National Assembly Standing Committee on measures to support businesses and people affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. The decree provides details on 4 groups of solutions for tax exemptions and reductions for people. The first measure is to reduce this year's corporation income tax for businesses and organizations with a turnover of no more than 200 billion Vietnamese dong and a decrease in revenue in 2021 compared to 2019. The second is a tax exemption of personal income tax, value-added tax, and other taxes in the third and fourth quarters of 2021 for business households and individuals that have had production and business activities in localities affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. The third is to reduce value-added tax rates for the service sector. And the fourth is to provide an exemption of late payment fines in the years 2020 and 2021 to enterprises and organizations that suffered losses in 2020. The decree took effect concurrently with Resolution 406 on October the 19th.
Ho Chi Minh City on Thursday, the 28th of October, decided to allow restaurants and coffee shops to resume on-site dining from Thursday under pandemic prevention conditions. All facilities must close before 9 p.m. and only serve 50% of the normal customer capacity. Alcoholic beverages cannot be served, except at wedding halls and tourist facilities. District 7 and Thu Duc City can serve alcohol in regular restaurants under a pilot scheme until the 15th of November. Based on the results, authorities of these 2 areas will report to the Ho Chi Minh City authorities to consider for further implementation across the city.
Da Nang City, Thừa Thiên Huế Province, and Binh Thuận Province have begun to welcome tourists from other localities, requiring visitors to have a certificate of being tested negative for COVID-19 to be able to stay. For Binh Thuận Province, visitors must ensure that they have got 2 vaccine jabs and a certificate of negative for COVID-19 upon check-in. Meanwhile, accommodation services, restaurants and attraction sites in Da Nang City must not exceed 50% of their capacity. People from green and yellow areas, or levels 1 and 2 of pandemic risk, do not need to be tested when they arrive, but must fill in a medical declaration form and scan their QR code. For Thừa Thiên Huế Province, visitors must have a negative COVID-19 test valid within 72 hours.
Viettel's Smart City model was recently announced as the Smart Cities Award 2021 winner. Viettel had to surpass many big names such as China Telecom Global and KT Corporation. The award honors effective, innovative solutions that are highly beneficial for people and businesses and improve the quality of life and operating efficiency of city governments. Up to now, 30 provinces and cities across the country have signed cooperation agreements with Viettel to deploy this smart city model.
Those are some highlights in Vietnam's economic scene. Up next in our crosstalk, we will take a look at how Vietnamese startups successfully called for a significant amount of investment capital from foreign investors amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Entering the third quarter when Vietnam implemented nearly 3 months of social distancing due to COVID-19, a number of Vietnamese startups successfully called for a significant amount of investment capital from foreign investors. So which factors contributed to this success amid the pandemic, and what can be expected from the Vietnamese startup scene in the time to come? We'll find out in this week's episode of BizLine. But first, let's take a look at how the Vietnamese startup scene was affected during the pandemic in the following story.
In the first half of 2021, Vietnamese technology startups only attracted roughly $130 million in investment, accounting for 3% of the capital structure for 6 Southeast Asian countries, according to Central Ventures. This is the lowest level recorded since 2019, especially since at one point, Vietnam accounted for more than 30% of the total value.
Trong bối cảnh là tình hình dịch, các cái startup tăng trưởng chậm lại, thậm chí là phải ngủ đông. Đa số các quỹ sẽ cẩn trọng hơn trong cái quá trình nghiên cứu đầu tư của mình. Các cái mô hình liên quan đến bán lẻ, tiêu dùng cá nhân thì chắc chắn sẽ bị ảnh hưởng.
The total value of over $100 million deals in Southeast Asia also fell to its lowest level in the past 3 years. Central Ventures say that many large investment deals were delayed in the first half of this year, which also affected Vietnam.
Có một cái sự sụt giảm rất lớn về cái giá trị đầu tư. Lý do là để mà hoàn thành một thương vụ lớn thì chắc chắn nhà đầu tư phải bay qua nước Việt Nam để mà có thể làm thẩm định, để có thể hiểu thị trường. Tuy nhiên là mình tin rằng là rất nhiều nhà đầu tư hiện nay khi mà họ không bay qua Việt Nam được thì họ rất là mong muốn được phối hợp với các cái quỹ nội địa. Thì đây là một cơ hội có 102 cho tất cả những quỹ nội địa có thể đóng một vai trò chủ đạo, chủ chốt.
When the pandemic happened, numerous domestic investment funds were also established to better support small startups. Deals involving Vietnamese enterprises investing in Vietnamese startups such as FPT's acquisitions of Base and Momo acquisition of PK have also become a trend in the market.
In order to learn more about the topic, we connected with Mr. Saba Bundik, Vice Chairman of the Central and Eastern European Chamber of Commerce in Vietnam. Well, thank you so much for joining our BizLine program.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Statistics show that the amount of capital poured into Vietnamese startups in the first half of this year was the lowest in the 2-year period. So, in your viewpoint, how has the COVID pandemic affected the startup scene here in Vietnam?
The VC venture capital investments, the lifespan of the investment, or like the length of the cooperation is 6 to 8 years. So it's like you can call it easily. It's like a marriage, and just like in a real marriage, the partners should know each other, should trust each other, and over the internet, this trust building is very difficult because part of the procedure. It's called due diligence. So part of the procedure when the investor is checking on everything what the startup or what the investee is just telling is a site visit. They would like to see your office. They would like to see how you treat your colleagues, how the receptionist is communicating. So everything telling a lot about the corporate culture, about how the business in general. So all these kind of risk elements, you cannot manage it over the internet. So it naturally slows down the investment procedures. So yes, the COVID made a very big impact on that because a lot of companies and investors are very much interested in Vietnam, want to come here, want to meet the startups, but physically cannot come.
In the meantime, the country has seen a number of enterprises, including domestic firms, acquiring Vietnamese startups. What are your comments on this trend in the context that the amount of foreign investment into Vietnamese startup was modest in the first 6 months?
Vietnamese startup ecosystem is more and more visible and more exciting for foreign investors. So I can recall the first hedge fair around 2013. It was later on it became the biggest startup event of Vietnam. But at the first event, even just to find the first 200 participants, it was very difficult. And if we jump in the future, I mean, in the time a little bit, like 2019, in Vietnam, we had more seed investments than in Singapore. So in a very short period of time, the Vietnamese ecosystems developed a lot. There are companies are very successful, very well known in international level, and the big impact on this was the Finnish Vietnamese Innovation Partnership Program. So there was a train of the trainer program. There was a model incubation and investment to show this knowledge what they bring over here to Vietnam works here, and it gives the ecosystem a very good backbone. So there are very well trained innovation managers are in Vietnam now. They run incubators, they run venture capital firms, and this is like help and accelerate this kind of development. So if you see even like big international well-known brands like Antler came to Vietnam recently, or Sequoia has a full-time Vietnamese venture partner. So sure, it's very good to see, regardless of the pandemic, many Vietnamese company could raise capital, which is great. And what I can see is like more to come. So once the borders are open, more investors will come.
Vietnam had an optimistic third quarter this year, with several prominent investment deals being made in the Vietnamese startup market. In July, VN Life Corporation chartered stock company, Vietnam's second tech unicorn, successfully raised $250 million in Series B funding round, co-led by General Atlantic and Dragoneer Investment Group. This is considered the largest capital raising deal recently revealed in the venture capital market in Vietnam. Later in August, e-commerce platform Tiki raised $20 million from telecom operator Taiwan Mobile from Taiwan, China. Meanwhile, September witnessed a number of notable deals. KioViet, a store management software provider, announced on September 2nd that it received $45 million from global investment firm KKR and Jungle Ventures in Series B funding. And most recently, Sky Markets, the creator of the blockchain-based game Axie Infinity, successfully raised $152 million as part of its Series B funding round from a U.S. investor.
It's a bright spot that in the third quarter of this year, while Vietnam was facing the fourth outbreak of COVID-19, a number of startups successfully attracted capital amounting even over $100 million from foreign ventures. So what factor do you think lead to this, especially in the context of the pandemic?
Vietnam is a big market, right? It's 100 million people. In whatever country you are from, it's a big market. The economy is growing despite COVID. So it's very unique. The first 1.5 years of COVID treatment or development, or like keeping the country safe, was really, really good. And Vietnam was in the media all over the world how successful was the measures against COVID. So it's still in the mind of business people. There are many Western educated young people coming back from the best universities. They speak English, they know what entrepreneurship is, they would like to establish their own companies. We have unicorns in Vietnam, we have very successful Vietnamese companies, even not just like be successful, but can go, and be an international player. So we have Abivin, who's like a world champion of startup. We have Topica, which became a regional player. So the youngsters see that they can set up their own company. So like one generation before, the dream job was state-owned company, a bank, or a multinational company. No, it's changed. The new generation, like youngsters at the age of 20, 25-ish, they want to make their own company. So it's really good. The external factors are coming from as the consequence of the financial stimulus. So in the international financial system, there's a lot of money is looking for its place. What means the bankers are investing in venture capital firms. The venture capital firms try to find new investment opportunities, And Vietnam is coming up. Vietnam is something new. Vietnam is one of the countries where not many venture capital firms are present yet, while the ecosystem is changing.
How has this reflected the creativity and potential of startups in general and their ideas and products in particular?
The readiness of the startup leaders is getting better year by year. And also the local investors, they get a little bit more and more experienced with this kind of asset class. Also the startups, 5-7 years ago, they were completely naive, very much like learn everything in first time. And even basic business tools like a business model canvas was completely new to the market. Now, if you go to a pitch event, one of the basic is they have a very, very well-developed business model canvas. In terms of idea, honestly, that's still a lot of room for improvement because I cannot see too many original ideas. So it's a big enough market to implement well-tested working business model. So something works very well in the US or very well working in Singapore or even in the European Union. You have a great market for that, and you just make the local implementation. That will be probably the next step or the next level for the Vietnamese ecosystem to develop something locally, go very big because the market helps you to get strong, and then go to other markets, at least in the ASEAN level. It's not necessarily a bad thing if a business concept or the business model is not original, because there is a kind of general misunderstanding about the value of an idea. Just because I have an idea, it doesn't make money. The value of the idea without execution is zero. Because if you are smart enough, you think about problems, you think about what could be better, maybe you have a good idea every week or every month, right? So when we evaluate a company, we evaluate an investment opportunity, there are three main categories to evaluate. The market, you have to see the team. That's what I'm talking about now, the execution. And the third one is the product, the service, or the technology itself. And it's not necessarily bad if it works somewhere else. So it means someone already took the risk, someone already changed and fixed the mistakes of the business model. So it's not necessarily bad.
Is the pandemic a booster for Vietnamese startups to find opportunities amid challenges?
For some, yes. For some, it's a disaster. It very much depends on what market you are operating in. So if you are in tourism, there is no income in tourism for 2 years. We have an incubator in Hoi An. It was designed for tourism, but if there are no tourists, no income, so we cannot help the local companies. Some other areas like e-commerce, logistics, it's heaven. People should buy the everyday products. They cannot go out, but they have this kind of demand, so someone has to answer. So for e-commerce and e-commerce related everything like payment, logistics, drop shipping, everything like this in this field, obviously it's a very, very big boost. And also somewhere in between, if you are somewhere in between these two extreme example, this kind of crisis or this kind of difficulties, it always separates the weak players and the strong players. So if you are patient enough, strong enough, you don't give up, maybe your competitor gives up earlier than you do. And once the crisis is over, your market will be different. There will be less players, less competitors, and you get stronger. You can take over their market share because they gave up, because they had to, or because they just couldn't manage it, or just figured it out. Maybe they want to do some other businesses.
This startup successfully called for foreign investment in September. The store management software provider was launched in 2014 and currently offers cloud-based point-of-sales management solutions to more than 150,000 small and medium-sized enterprises. Amid the pandemic, the startup has grasped opportunities as customer behaviors have changed. As such, although it has recorded lower growth rate compared to the pre-pandemic period, it still managed to attract 3,000 to 5,000 new customers each month.
Nếu mà khu vực cứ bùng dịch lên một cái thì lại phải đóng cửa để tránh dịch. Đấy, tồn hàng chắc là cái điều mà mình sợ nhất. Dùng thêm các phần mềm quản lý bán hàng online. Đấy, để vừa chống tồn hàng này, để duy trì qua dịch.
Rất nhiều hoạt động chúng ta phải làm là bao gồm online và làm ở nhà. dẫn đến việc là cái hành vi người ta đã quen dùng công cụ công nghệ, và bản thân những cái nhà tiểu thương như người dân ở các cái vùng khu vực thành phố khác họ cũng rất là hiểu biết nhiều hơn về việc sử dụng công nghệ. Chúng tôi đã phát triển những cái giải pháp hỗ trợ các nhà bán lẻ không chỉ bán offline mà cả bán online, như là hỗ trợ website cho khách hàng có thể tự bán hàng online được, rồi hỗ trợ những dịch vụ đi kèm, ví dụ dịch vụ giao vận để hỗ trợ các nhà bán lẻ có thể bán trực tiếp online và ship hàng đến cho người dùng.
Its latest investor, global investment firm KKR, revealed that the startup is the first investment made under its growth technology strategy for Southeast Asia. KKR also said that Kiosk Việt has terrific growth potential. In the fourth quarter, the startup will offer more new technological solutions that are free of charge for its customer and help customers connect with good suppliers to foster online sales.
How have incubators and government support helped foster the innovation and development of Vietnamese startups, particularly in such a difficult time of the pandemic?
There was a lot of good changes in the last 7-8 years. Incubators play a very critical role on that because they are the first filter. So they are the one who tell the startup owner, like, okay, the idea is maybe good, but you have to work a lot on the execution. So the quality of the incubator managers is a critical factor. Like a few years ago, it was a small community, everyone knew everyone. Now there are like, probably on a weekly basis, there's a new incubator, which is good, which is great. Next thing is like some kind of unified training for innovation managers, some kind of certificates, because these days everyone can be a mentor. Obviously the government has a critical role to make the life of the startups easier. And as I mentioned to you, this Finnish program, the Finnish Innovation Partnership Program, it was a joint program of the Finnish government and the Vietnamese government. So it is a very, very successful program. We have Tech Fest, so the government in level of communication have a lot of support for the startups. That was mentioned a couple of years ago. Vietnam would like to have 1 million startup in a short period of time. So in level of communication is good. Even a very high level policymakers are personally supporting, the startup ecosystem.
Currently, there are 2 unicorns in Vietnam, marking the country ranked 3rd in Southeast Asia in terms of the number of unicorns. Vietnam set a target to have 10 unicorns by 2030. So what do you think about the potential of the Vietnamese startup scene within the region? And is this target a feasible target in the time to come?
It's always good to have targets because at least it helps us to measure where we are. So we are there yet or not there yet. It's very ambitious. Having 10 unicorns in Vietnam, good target. So it means a lot, but it's not the whole picture because so unicorn is a valuation. There is a big company and investors think that the value is huge, but the unicorn status itself is just part of the game. So a stronger and more competitive startup ecosystem when people can easily join international projects, easily can cooperate with international partners, should be the way. So once the ecosystem is more competitive, there are more and more investors are coming, more and more great projects. We reach the level when we start a great project from Vietnam and go abroad. This level of 10 unicorns will come naturally as a byproduct or as a side effect of the great development. So it's good to have goals, but we have to see that how the other companies, not only the big unicorns, but these 20, 30, 50 people-sized companies with a great idea, great concept, great execution can be competitive because they can make money. They can bring good technologies. They can be part of big international projects.
These autonomous self-driving vehicles can fully handle the work of transporting goods in production workshops. This product was designed and manufactured by a young startup enterprise in the country with the support of Qualcomm Corporation for resources and the latest technologies.
Để mở rộng cái thị trường với khách hàng, quy mô sản xuất, chúng tôi rất cần những sự hỗ trợ từ những doanh nghiệp lớn về không chỉ là về tiền mà còn về mặt là đối tác và đồng hành cùng chúng tôi để tạo ra những cái sản phẩm tốt nhất.
Thanks to their highly innovative ideas, Brostec was one of 3 startups that won the Qualcomm Vietnam Innovation Challenge contest. Their products apply new technology trends are not suitable for the market. In addition to financial capital, these startup companies were supported and advanced by leading experts.
Chúng tôi muốn hỗ trợ cho cộng đồng startup công nghệ tại Việt Nam biến những cái ý tưởng sáng tạo của mình thành những cái sản phẩm có tính thương mại cao, và thông qua chương trình QVC thì chúng tôi cũng muốn thể hiện cái cam kết của mình để giúp Việt Nam trở thành một cái trung tâm đổi mới sáng tạo và một cái trung tâm công nghệ mới, không chỉ trong khu vực mà còn trên thế giới.
According to the assessment of international organizations, Vietnam is currently among the top 3 most dynamic innovation startup ecosystems in Southeast Asia. Experts believe that the Vietnamese startup ecosystem will continue to thrive in the next 10 years and that there will be more unicorns with great potential to become unicorns.
Vietnam is said to be a rising star in terms of startup and will emerge as the third largest startup ecosystem in Southeast Asia in 2022. What are your comments on the Vietnamese startup scene within the region?
What is the great advantage here in Vietnam is the speed of change. So if we see the trends, if we see how things are going, how quickly changing, number of startups, quality of startup, number of investment, accelerators, international players are coming. We are in the middle of a very great period of changes and how Vietnam is catching up. And sooner or later, we leave the competitors behind.
What can we expect from the startup scene in 2022? Which sector do you think will develop the most?
I hope this COVID will over soon and tourism can start. There would be a very good support for the tourism-related startups, so that's I'm expecting. IT traditionally is very strong in Vietnam. One issue is just like many other countries, not enough IT developers, so we need more. So education should catch up with that. Therefore, IT education-related startups, I would expect more. There was an investment just a few weeks ago about that. So there is a kind of boot camp, so they can train IT people. We mentioned like blockchain. It's a big story, international level. It's great. And what I'm expecting is more and more integration to the international communities, international like events, research programs, working together with other countries, and what I'm expecting in a few years is more Vietnamese companies going abroad. So we can see the big regional players like Grab is coming to Vietnam, which is great. And then there was an answer, there were some Vietnamese companies trying to do the same. So in a few years, I would see that bigger Vietnamese startups get strong here and can go to Thailand, can go to Malaysia or Indonesia, just like Topica did very well. So or Abivin did it very well. So I would like to see more really competitive startups in international level. There will be a lot of merge and acquisition because some of the startups here are very, very well rooted, and international companies, international startups, they need this market. So there will be some partnerships, some merge and acquisition, and also would be great to see the Vietnamese companies are going abroad and they do this acquisition. So they buy out some other companies. That's what I can see in the next few years.
Well, once again, thank you so much, Mr. Bundik, for joining our Baseline program. It is expected that several big deals will be reached in the fourth quarter of this year. As such, experts believe that venture capital into Vietnam will surpass the threshold of $1 billion in 2021, marking a year of recovery for the digital economy and a record year for venture investment in Vietnam. According to a survey by Dow Ventures, with 50 investment funds operating in 6 major markets in Southeast Asia, in the long run, Vietnam is considered a top market of interest for investors, thanks to the potential of Vietnamese startups themselves, as well as support from the government and incubators. And this also brings us to the end of this week's Baseline program. To rewatch our program, please log on to our official website at vtv4.vtv.vn or simply download our app VTV Go from App Store and Google Play for a lot more. Thank you for watching and see you next time.